A few days back, I had made a video about N-staging, and I claimed that if you watch that video, you will never forget the N-staging in head and neck cancer. I still stick by that claim, and in this video, I will talk about those head and neck cancers to which that N-staging does not apply. I have clearly stated in that video that N-staging, as stated in the previous video, does not apply to human papillomavirus or P16 positive oropharyngeal carcinoma. It does not apply to nasopharyngeal carcinoma, and it does not apply to thyroid carcinoma. Now you might think maybe these particular N stages are more difficult. No, they are less difficult. They are even easier to remember than N staging that I described in the previous video. Another point I want to highlight here is I use the term extranodal extension and contralateral without explaining what they mean. Ipsilateral means same side, contralateral means opposite side. If you are not from the world of medicine, you might find these words very difficult, but these are words commonly used by doctors. What does extranodal extension mean? This term was previously called extracapsular spread, but with the 8th edition of the American Joint Committee on Cancer classification coming out, extranodal extension is the term. It means that the metastasis has spread beyond the lymph node. How do you clinically understand that? If the overlying skin is involved, if the underlying muscle is involved, that is the lymph node is fixed to the overlying skin or the underlying muscle, that is deep-seated extension in case of underlying muscle, or the metastasis from the lymph node has spread to an adjoining structure, an adjacent structure. This can be clinically understood if a sign of nerve involvement is there. So if these signs are there, clinically you can come to the conclusion that there is extranodal extension. Now let's look at the N staging of human papillomavirus or P16 positive oropharyngeal cancer, nasopharyngeal carcinoma, and thyroid cancer. And let's see if these are easier to remember than N staging of the other head and neck cancer that I described in the previous video. I think this is even easier. Let's start with HPV positive oropharyngeal carcinoma. So NX and N0 are terms that I did not describe in the previous video. I'm going to describe in this video. NX, X means unknown, that is regional lymph node metastasis could not be assessed. N0 means regional lymph node metastasis not present. N of course means regional lymph node metastasis. N1 in oropharyngeal cancer is very simple. As I said in the previous video, you only need to remember two numbers, 3 and 6. And even with these three cancers also, you need to remember only two numbers, 3 and 6. Okay? So 3 comes in handy only in one situation, to remember how many N stages are there, N1, N2, N3. 3 centimeter you don't need to remember here. So what is N1 in HPV positive oropharyngeal carcinoma? N1 is one or more ipsilateral lymph nodes, none more than 6 centimeter in size. N2 is bilateral or contralateral lymph nodes, none more than 6 centimeter in size. And N3 is any lymph node more than 6 centimeter in size in greatest dimension. In these situations, you don't have to worry about extranodal extension, and you don't need to worry about the lymph node being less than 3 centimeter or more than 3 centimeter, but not more than 6 centimeter. You just have to worry about 6 centimeter. This is for HPV positive oropharyngeal carcinoma. Now let's look at nasopharyngeal carcinoma. It's even easier. Nasopharyngeal carcinoma also has N1, N2 and N3. What is N1 in nasopharyngeal carcinoma? In nasopharyngeal carcinoma, the important word we need to remember is unilateral is used. Ipsilateral is not used. Unilateral. So nasopharyngeal carcinoma N1 is unilateral cervical lymph node metastasis or unilateral or bilateral retropharyngeal lymph node metastasis, none more than 6 centimeter in greatest dimension, and all above the caudal border of cricoid cartilage. So in nasopharyngeal carcinoma, an additional anatomical landmark has to be remembered, which is the caudal border of cricoid cartilage. Caudal border means lower border of cricoid cartilage. The classification could have said lower border of cricoid cartilage, but they don't want to make it too simple for you. It already is very simple. Just remember caudal border of cricoid cartilage. In N1 and N2, the lymph node metastasis is above the caudal border of cricoid cartilage. If it goes below the caudal border of cricoid cartilage, no matter what the size, automatically the end staging of nasopharyngeal carcinoma becomes N3. The additional factor apart from the anatomical location of the lymph node metastasis in nasopharyngeal carcinoma is the size. The size has to be 6 centimeter or less. Moment the size becomes more than 6 centimeter and or the lymph node metastasis is below the caudal border of the cricoid cartilage, it is N3. So what is N2? N2 is bilateral cervical lymph node metastasis, none more than 6 centimeter, none below the caudal border of cricoid cartilage. So just to repeat, the end staging of nasopharyngeal carcinoma, NX cannot be assessed, N0 not present, N1 is unilateral cervical lymph node metastasis or unilateral or bilateral retropharyngeal lymph node metastasis, none more than 6 centimeter in greatest dimension, none below the caudal border of cricoid cartilage. N2 is bilateral cervical lymph node metastasis, none more than 6 centimeter in greatest dimension, none below the caudal border of cricoid cartilage. And N3 is very simple. The regional lymph node involved may be more than 6 centimeter in size and or may be below the caudal border of cricoid cartilage. Now we are left with the final end staging, which does not apply to the end staging as described in the previous video, that is thyroid cancer. Now you might think thyroid cancer end staging must be the most difficult. It is not. It is the most easy. In fact, thyroid cancer has only two stages, N0 and N1. That's it. N0 of course means there is no regional lymph node metastasis. N1 means there is regional lymph node metastasis. There is N1A and N1B. You might think N1A and N1B must be really complicated. NX of course is there for every cancer. NX means regional lymph node metastasis cannot be assessed. So now you're thinking thyroid cancer N1A and N1B will be the most difficult to remember. It is not. It is the easiest to remember. Here you don't even have to worry about 3 centimeter, 6 centimeter. Only thing you have to worry about is the level of the lymph node. Now you know thyroid gland itself is in the midline. It's somewhere in the lower neck, in the midline. Which lymph node level is very close to this? Level 6. Also if thyroid gland is really big, it can have retrosternal extension. We know this. If thyroid gland becomes really big, it can have retrosternal extension. It can grow into the thorax behind the sternal bone. What lymph node is there? Level 7. So, if thyroid cancer spreads to these levels, that is level 6 or level 7, or pretracheal, prelaryngeal, or upper mediastinal level lymph nodes, then it is N1A. If thyroid cancer spreads to any other regional lymph nodes, then it is N1B. It is that simple, really. That's it. So I believe the end staging that I did not describe in the previous video and have described in this video is even easier to remember than the previous one. If you know these two things, then you know the end staging, that is the regional lymph node metastasis status, how to clinically assess it for all cancers of the head and neck region. Watch these two videos in conjunction and I believe you will never have any problem with remembering end staging of head and neck cancer. If you think I could not explain any concept properly, or if you want further clarification, or if you have found some mistake, do not hesitate to reach out to me in the comment section. I look forward to your comments.